doing shows for oh so long. Every summer in your favorite bar, we're determined to keep going strong. Nothing in the world can stop our song.
So whether you have season tickets or saw a show with friends,
We have the info and the scoop on all the latest trends. Gather around, we won't be a bore. We promise to have you coming back for more. In the meantime, we'll say what we mean.
Welcome back to In the Meantime with John Saunders. I'm John Saunders, and this is In the Meantime. And you're never going to believe this. I still have no idea what I'm doing. This week's very special guest is the extraordinary and incredibly talented Jillian Zack. We sat down for an amazing conversation about her journey to becoming the powerhouse pianist, vocal coach, and musical director she is today. As always, when you mention Jillian's name when donating to the Bright Future Fund, half of that donation will go directly to her. Jillian's donation destination this week is the Coalition to Stop Gun Violence. The Coalition to Stop Gun Violence develops and advocates for evidence-based solutions to reduce gun injury and death in all its forms. Okay, now's the time. Hit that subscribe button and away we go with In the Meantime featuring Jillian Zack.
Jillian Zack, welcome to In the Meantime.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
We are so excited that you're here to talk with us today. Where are you from, Jillian?
So I am from Massachusetts. I grew up in a small town like 40 minutes outside of Boston called Sherborne.
And how did you originally get exposed to theater and to music in general?
Music was always playing in our house. My parents always took us to see shows when we were kids. My grandparents took us to see shows. So I first got started on the piano because my grandfather played.
Okay.
And when I was little, they lived in Florida, but every summer they would come up and live with us. And so we always had a piano. My grandfather played piano, and then before that, he played sax and clarinet and played a lot of jazz. And he had a job. He worked at the post office, but he would always gig at night or on the weekends. And eventually he ended up playing in the Army band during World War II. So the music was just like in his blood. So he was the first one that got me started on the piano. Like when I was
very
4.
cool. When did it get really intense? Like when did your training really start to, when you were a kid, when did you start to realize like, oh, I might be a wizard?
I mean, it's weird because I started when I was 4, but officially started taking real lessons from a piano teacher that lived down the street when I was 6.
Okay.
And I think it was clear to my parents, at least from the get-go, that I had some talent. And then that teacher ended up moving away, and she connected us to a different teacher. And I ended up studying with her from age 7 until I went to college.
Wow.
And I would say, I never really stopped. And so it just progressively got more intense. And then in high school was when I really decided that I might try this as a career.
Yeah.
Because I also always acted in the musicals and the plays.
I was going to dig into your singing. I know that you have a bit of a career on the boards. Tell us everything.
So I did all of that all
Right.
my childhood. I mean, I went to theater camps. I was in all the shows in middle school and high school. I played Reno Sweeney twice. No big deal.
I was aware.
Learned how to tap dance. I was really into it. My piano teacher hated when I was doing the musicals.
Of course you did.
It took so much time out from practicing.
Yeah.
But I was like, I am not giving that up.
Yes.
There's no way.
Where'd you go to college?
So I went to the Manhattan School of Music
Okay.
for my undergrad, and I got for a bachelor's of music in piano performance. So it was solo classical piano.
Right.
Conservatory. It was a 4-year program. Manhattan School of Music is like around 122nd Street in Manhattan, just north of Columbia.
Okay.
And it was amazing. It was such because through high school I always battled with wanting to be a normal kid and My parents wanted me to go to performing arts high school, and I was like, no, I just want to be normal, because Walnut
Sure.
Hill was in the town right next to mine.
Oh, okay. Where I've been there.
Yeah. And I was like, no, I just want to have a normal childhood. And so I was always battling with having to practice and wanting to be social and do normal high school
Yeah.
things. So then I get to college and I was like, my peers,
Yeah.
like, these are my people.
Right.
Like,
Right.
they get the fact that, no, I can't go out, I have to practice, and nobody's giving me a hard time about it. It was
Yeah.
an amazing realization that these people exist.
So you finished your undergrad, and then you had a tough decision, I think, to make, right?
Yeah, so I wasn't really sure what to do at first. Because I sort of, through the years of being at MSM, I again always found myself playing for singers, working with singers, and started dating a singer.
We're gonna get into that.
Mhm. And, and so, I think I realized I was much more passionate about the collaborative aspect of being a pianist. Because if you think about it, all the other instruments really can't do a whole lot solo wise without piano accompaniment.
Right.
And that was the area that I just really loved. Like, I didn't want to sit in a practice room for 8 hours a day by myself all the time to become a concert pianist. It's just not the life that I envisioned. And so I realized that there was a thing called collaborative piano, or accompanying. There were these degrees all over the country that I had never heard of.
I never have heard of it until now.
I found that MSM, Juilliard, USC, San Francisco Conservatory, New England Conservatory, they all had these programs in collaborative piano. It's an area that has grown exponentially even since I was in school. Even since, it feels like ages
Right.
ago now. But and so I started looking into what these degrees meant, and it's exactly what I was looking for. It trains you to work with other instrumentalists and singers. So then I decided to do collaborative piano, and I auditioned at a whole bunch of schools and ended up going to Juilliard.
Juilliard, congratulations. Now, so many people, we all hear about Juilliard. Everybody kind of, I mean, it is Juilliard. It's like the top of the top. And what are those pressures like? Is it like what we hear about, or it is? Okay, go on. What specifically?
I have a lot to say about Juilliard.
Good.
No, it's let me start by saying it is an amazing place. It was such a thrill to find out I was accepted.
I can't imagine.
Because I wasn't even going to apply. I applied for pre-screen for undergrad, and I didn't even get an audition when I was 18. So I was like, oh, Juilliard, I'm not even going to apply, because also Manhattan School of Music and Juilliard kind of have a little rivalry going on.
I did know that.
Yeah. So I get in, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even believe this, right? What an incredible honor. And that first semester was probably the hardest school semester I've ever had in my entire life. I cried probably once a week, because they're not joking around, especially in a master's degree. And my teachers were really amazing and really intense and really serious. My teachers were Margot Garrett and Jonathan Feldman, and they're both probably some of the biggest names in the collaborative piano world. And it was sort of, I was shell-shocked a little bit because a lot of people, well, first of all, there were only 7 students in my major in my year.
Wow.
So it was sort of like,
Pressure is on.
the pressure is on. You are one
Yeah.
of 7.
Yeah.
It was just like coming at me from all sides. And then you're going to have these performances and, you know, people are going to be there to review it. So it was
Wow.
very intense. And they basically, my teachers, I had one really bad performance because I just had some performance anxiety and
Sure.
it, you know, caused me to make some mistakes. And, you know, it's a learning process. But after that experience, they were like, you got to get on top of these things or you're never going to make it. And I sobbed.
Mhm.
And then was like, well, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get on top of these things because I am not quitting.
So you finished Juilliard, and then you kind of launched. You kept teaching obviously at Juilliard too, but then you started to do some MD, some musical direction. So where did that journey begin?
When I was still in school, I started doing a little bit for the Manhattan School of Music summer camp.
Okay.
They had a middle school summer camp that I worked at for a couple years, that I more so accompanied than anything else, but I sort of had some music directing responsibilities and I played the show and rehearsals. So I started getting into that a little bit, but my first like real outside paid job was at Theater Workshop of Nantucket
Okay.
doing Into the Woods,
Yes.
which was so much fun. And I mean, happened totally randomly. We were on vacation and I didn't even know. I mean, I grew up going to Nantucket as a kid and I didn't even know there was a theater. And we happened to be in town, walked by a sign, and I saw that they were doing the last 5 years.
Oh, awesome.
And I was like, they do theater on Nantucket? Because Nantucket is my happy place. I mean, it really,
Yeah.
you know, I love everything about Nantucket. So I kind of remembered that. And I don't even remember, maybe a few months later, I was trying to figure out my summer and I just cold emailed this company. I knew nothing about it. And I just was like, I love Nantucket. I love musical theater. I went to Juilliard. Like, you know, I don't know how you hire if you're looking, but I will say having that name on your resume certainly helps.
Yeah, definitely.
And I was like, I don't know how you hire if you're looking for anybody, but I just would love to be you know. And Justin Cherney wrote me back and was like, actually, we're looking for someone for next summer and we're doing Into the Woods. And I was like, it's my favorite show ever. Like,
sign me up.
Aligned. And I was like, great, sign me up. And I never had really MD'd anything before.
I mean, for Into the Woods to be the first show you musical direct, you better have gone to Juilliard. So you did a couple shows at Theater Workshop. You went on to do that Into the Woods, and then you went back
the following summer and did Annie Get Your Gun.
Yep.
And Full Monty.
Yep.
In rep, which was
Okay.
a hilarious experience.
So another fun summer in Nantucket.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
Sign me up. And that was the summer that you wanted me to come to do West Side Story.
Yes.
And I was like, sorry, I'm going to be on Nantucket. And I never lived it down. You're still mad at me about it.
I will never recover, but we're going to, you know, I'm going to keep trying. Let's get into your Mac-Haydn experience, because to talk about the Mac-Haydn with Jillian Zack, we probably need to talk about James Rogers.
Duh.
Duh. So your first experience at the Mac-Haydn Theatre was, this is when I met you.
Right. Seeing a rehearsal of Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was the first show that James did there.
Yep.
And I couldn't come to the show because I think I was going to Germany.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah, I spent a month in Berlin. Got a grant through school to go study German in Berlin. So I briefly came up, stayed in the tiny attic room in Church Street with James.
Yep.
And saw a rehearsal, and I was like, what is this place? What is this magical, weird, mysterious place?
It is.
I didn't get to see the show, so I didn't even, have a sense of what it did, like what it was.
Yeah, what that space turned into. Because, there's a saying in wardrobe, like if something, like you'll look at a dress and they'll say, it's hell on a hanger, but wait till you see it on stage. And sometimes I feel that way about the Mac. It's like, it's hell on a hanger in here, but wait till you see when they turn the lights off, Now, you and James met at Manhattan School of Music, right?
We did.
Okay.
We met when I was a young little freshman at the Manhattan School of Music.
Mm-hmm.
So we started dating when I was 18.
Wow.
Yeah, then he did Brigadoon, and then he did Les Mis.
Right.
And that's when my entire family came up to Chatham.
I remember that.
They rented out the entire Travel Lodge.
Love it.
And all came saw Les Mis.
Yep.
Which was super fun.
What a feat that was.
Oh, what an amazing show.
Yeah. Yeah, it was awesome. And I remember just kind of getting to know you over those few years. And then James got kind of active with me on the other side. But I remember when he called me and mentioned that you might want to throw your hat in the ring to be the MD. And I was like, oh, really? Yes. Talk to me about that first season and just the workload in general. I think a lot of our audience has no idea what you and David are doing literally every minute of every day.
Yes, that was a huge summer of work.
It was.
I'm so lucky that David and I gelled and we had such a wonderful collaboration. He learned a lot from me. I learned a lot from him. We worked together really well. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Because we kind of showed up and we're like, okay, like, we're here. What do we do?
Right.
And you were like, figure it out. And because Josh had kind of given us a few tips and a few things, but there's just so many elements that you have to think about. Teaching everybody the music, putting together that schedule for teaching music to make sure that everything gets learned, everything gets rehearsed, the band books, which for me was a completely new experience. Learning how to pare down the score from a 30-piece orchestra to fit 5 players, photocopying parts and trying to put together, cutting and taping into different parts so that we're not missing anything in the band. Hours and hours that you don't really have because you're rehearsing at all times.
Right. Yeah.
Or you're playing the show. Not to mention we also were programming the keyboards, which also was brand new to me. And God bless Josh Smith because he came to my apartment one day to give me a crash course in programming the Kurtz files. James and I were just talking about this the other day, actually. That first summer at the Mac taught me how to be a music director.
Cool.
And all the other elements that I didn't know that I didn't know. Yeah.
Talk a little bit about how creative you have to get with transitions, adapting them to the space. Because I think a lot of people don't realize that some of that music that moves us scene to scene isn't really there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think, again, it depends on the show. And because of the nature of the space, sometimes we've had to talk about, okay, in a huge theater, this probably scenery would have flown in during this moment, but we don't have that. So we have to, sometimes we've had to add transition music that maybe appeared somewhere else in the show, or we take the end of a song and create a little tag ending to fill this little transition. Or for Oklahoma, we kind of just created our own at one point.
I mean, that was a really kind of incredible, weird moment where we were in the room trying to figure out how are we going to make this transition work?
Right.
And out of that, that weird spitballing brainstorm session came this like incredible moment where we didn't change a note. We just changed the way it played,
Right.
It was like one of my favorite transitions I think we've ever done.
I mean, I think that's one challenge of an MD is that, you're not just sitting there playing during rehearsal. You really have to pay attention to what's going on, because I'll be making notes in the back of my head like, okay, this amount of music is working for now, but this change is actually going to be shorter because they're going to get better at it. So we're going to have to probably pare it down, and I'll write a note like, or cut to here if it takes less time.
And now a word from our president. Paul Colarusso, our board president, currently quarantining in New York City, is here once again to answer our burning questions. Paul, as the summer progresses, what is it that you seem to be missing the most on the Mac-Haydn stage?
Wigs.
Me too. Thank you, Paulie.
Tell me some of your favorite spots in Chatham. Like, what do you like to hit?
I definitely like ooms.
Okay.
Just like to, get away from everything, and it's very peaceful.
It's beautiful.
Do a nice little walk around the lake and just breathe in that fresh air.
Yep.
I became a really big fan of Main Street Goodness.
Iconic.
Mm-hmm.
Really good.
Went there a lot.
Yeah.
Friends with the guy, the owner.
Christopher.
Yep.
Yep.
Love that place. And the Berry Farm.
Berry Farm. Thank God for the Berry Farm through quarantine. You know what? It may cost $10,000 to buy something there, but I don't care.
No. It's so delicious.
It's amazing.
And when I was living at D's, I was literally right down the street. So I was like there all the time.
Let's get into your teaching in New York City. So since the quarantine hit, I remember at the beginning, James saying, Jillian's so busy. So tell us about your teaching in New York.
Yeah. So I have been really busy, which is amazing. And I feel very lucky as a performer to have something else that I actually am really passionate about and love to do.
Yeah.
I do a lot of vocal coaching. And I started working for a woman named Baydeen Magaziner. Yes, that's her real name. And I sort of just got connected one thing through another with her and her studio. I was accompanying lessons. So a lot of times, we make money by just accompanying a lot of lessons. And then that turned into, the more she got to know me, that turned into, oh, you're quite a good musician. Do you want to coach my students? And she has made a huge career with Broadway kids.
Yeah.
And so she's kind of one of the big go-to people in the city for all these kids that are trying to do theater professionally. So then I started coaching for her, and I just do way less accompanying now. And now I just coach these kids.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah, and how is that coaching, like how is that navigating through a voice that's obviously changing, right? So I mean that's got to be like really challenging for you.
It is, and I have learned so much about the voice from her and from working with these kids, because girls' voices are different because I have students anywhere from 8 to adulthood. And when they're 8, these little girl voices usually belt really high and then have no head voice. Just hands down, and they're like the little Matildas and then no head voice. And as they start to grow up and mature and become teenagers, they suddenly can't belt as high, and they start freaking out. And I'm like, okay, well, once you're 10 or 11, we have to start working on your head voice and start working on your mix, and teaching these little girls not to just belt, because if they want any sort of long-term success, they can't have like two separate voices, one that's huge and one that's teeny. We have to kind of blend them.
Now, you also teach a couple of our alumni, right?
I do.
They speak a language of their own.
Good. Now, the first time you gave me a little glottal on own, which I liked better,
Okay.
so that we don't get their own and then slidey
Okay.
into the mix, right?
Okay.
Of their own.
Of their own.
Yeah, so you're just gonna have to practice. So always the challenge is going between chest and mix, right?
Yeah.
And like figuring out the balance of it all. So you're gonna have to practice going from their own, light chest, mix. Just try it. Their own.
Their own.
Yeah, that's terrific. So you always do it that way. You never have to belt that. That sounds beautiful. Annabelle is, I mean, you got to see her now. Like the difference from when she was Annie to now, because she's now 12 going on like 20.
Uh-huh.
And just so much more, so mature, and just has grown up into this lovely young lady.
She was just the best kid. What a cool kid she was.
Yeah. She's
So
awesome.
chill.
Yep. She's really great. Yeah. I still work with her pretty regularly, and well, very regularly, and Clementine too.
Mama.
Good. And what I really want you to focus on is making sure you have a nice vertical vowel. You're like, yes, I know what you're going to say. Nice vertical vowel. And allowing the mouths to just open a little bit, right? So that we help create that space. So give me ma, 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 ma.
Mama.
Nicely done.
Mama.
Good. Right, and the goal being we're really trying to blend. Yeah? From chest into head. Mama. So remember, you want to go lighter in chest as you go up. Pretty good. We haven't worked quite as much during quarantine, but before that, I was seeing her a lot in the city. And because she did Christmas Story tour before doing Ragtime, and then got hired again. So I was working with her to prep her because they have to re-audition every year.
Oh, okay.
So then she did it again.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that was fun, and we were just they're both great kids, and
They are.
I was so excited to have them working at the Mac.
Has it been a super challenge over Zoom, or have you found like you've kind of got it down now?
I mean, I was lucky because I did have students who already did FaceTime lessons because I already was teaching kids that weren't local.
Yeah.
So I at least knew the platform of either FaceTime or Zoom, and had the sort of technical side already worked out.
Great.
The challenge only is that because I would, filter in a few online lessons with my in-person students, and online lessons definitely, I think, are more draining because you're not in the room to feel their energy. So you're trying to just get more and give more because you feel like there's this wall between you.
Yep.
So I do find it more tiring.
Mm-hmm.
But it works. I think, my students are definitely still making lots of progress.
Good.
And, I'm able to record tracks for them. And we warm up. And I think in a way, it's kind of trained their ears better because they're having to sing more a cappella.
This has been quite a year for you. Let's just go ahead and unpack the fact that you made your Broadway debut
Yes.
this year in the smash hit play To Kill a Mockingbird. Go ahead and tell us all about that.
Totally surreal.
I mean, just incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you. It was, I still can't really believe that it happened. So over the last couple of years, I've been trying to, make connections with some people and music directors, and you have to put yourself out there to be on people's radar. So I set up a meeting with Kimberly Grigsby, who's the music director there. Because the play, for those people who haven't seen it, obviously it's a play, so there's no band, but they have on stage a pump organist and a guitar on either side of the stage that basically are there and play transition music from scene to scene. And the pump organ is an instrument that I didn't know how to play.
Uh-huh.
You basically pump with your feet to create the air that fills up the billows, so then you can make sound. So I had met with Kimberly actually through my sister, who was one of the stage managers on the show. And just a casual meeting, because I had never met her before, and I've known about her for years and years and years. And we're talking, we're chatting, we're having wine, and then she's like, well, listen, we're actually looking for a sub next year. Is it something you'd be interested in doing? And I was like, I'm sorry, come again, what?
More wine.
Yeah, I was like, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Yes, 1,000%. And she was like, yeah, because one of our subs is leaving to go do this thing, and I'm going to be going to do, she was supposed to be working on Flying Over Sunset.
Ah, yeah.
And so she's like, so we need a second person. And I was like, well, I don't know how to play the pump organ. And she was like, oh, you can learn that. That's, And I was like, okay. So my sister and I left the theater, and we were like, did she just offer me a job? The two of us were so surprised because we weren't expecting that at all.
I just booked Broadway.
Yeah, because my sister didn't know that they were looking for a sub. Like, it wasn't
Yeah.
So then I went back, and she was like, yeah, I guess maybe you did. So I went back the next week and met with Kimberly, and on the stage, on the set, because that's the only organ. They have a practice organ, but that's where you have to go. So she's showing me some things, and it's really cool because it's just, because you're really working with the air, it really feels like a voice or a wind instrument that you're playing with. And so there's a lot of intricate things that I was going to have to learn, but it was really interesting to me. And I was just like, this is great. Just whatever, sign me up. I'm ready.
Right.
I'll do whatever it takes to learn this thing. And she was like, yeah, okay, like, this seems like a really good fit. Let's do it. And I was like, okay. So she just offered me a job. She had me sit down and play a little bit, and she was like, yeah, I can tell just, by the way you're feeling things already that you're a good musician and this will be great. And it had to be a woman because of the nature of the show. So like, they were definitely looking for a woman, but she just trusted me. And so I went and did Matilda on Nantucket, came back, and then January 3rd, I remember the date very vividly, January 3rd, I met with her, and she went over the whole score of the show, and she gave me a start date of January 20th. And I just spent the next 3 weeks practicing. I'd go to the theater because it was the only place I could practice.
Wow.
Go to the theater, sit on stage in awe every time I just walked in and was like, oh, hi, doorman. Like,
Yeah.
So I got one rehearsal on stage with the understudies, one understudy rehearsal where they ran the show. And then I played one rehearsal for the Madison Square Garden production performance that they did,
Yep.
which we just ended up doing Act 2 that day. And then I debuted that night.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so I ran the show for the first time with the cast on stage with a live audience.
In the midst of all this, being super busy during the pandemic, navigating New York City through the pandemic, the shutdown, teaching on Zoom, many folks may not know that you're also due to welcome a baby.
That is correct. That is correct.
You have been pregnant through all of this.
Mm-hmm.
When did you find out you were having a baby?
We found out on Christmas Eve.
Okay.
Which was nuts because I was probably like 3 weeks pregnant, but I was like, well, it's about to be Christmas. We're about to be with my family. There's going to be a lot of wine. I better just check. And sure enough, positive, pregnant.
Yeah.
So it's been really crazy.
I found out, I feel like I found out because I think James felt like he had to tell me.
Yes, you were one of the earlier ones.
I was, because I was like, well, what about this? And you can do this in the summer. And he's like, yeah, no, not really.
Yeah, he was like, can you come music direct Sound of Music? And I was like, that's in August, right?
Probably not.
Probably not. Sorry.
How has this been for you to do this? Because I haven't seen too much on the topic, to be honest, especially in New York City.
Yeah, it's been very strange. Basically, once we went on lockdown, I had a couple appointments in person that I had to go alone. James was not allowed in with me.
Already weird.
Yeah, already strange. We had a couple ultrasounds, and I went for my anatomy scan, the big, exciting, happy 20-week anatomy scan that everybody gets excited about. I was alone with a mask on.
Oh my God.
And, they're in a mask, I'm in a mask. It was pretty creepy, but the hospital was very, they checked my temperature at the door. They asked if I had any symptoms. They were very procedural, and I never felt unsafe, but it was just weird because it was so empty, because they basically pared down all of the non-essential appointments. So I was one of 2 women in the waiting room. Normally it's packed.
Yeah.
And, you sit there alone for a few minutes, and then you go in, and we had to have a fetal echo at 24 weeks, I believe, because they weren't sure from an earlier test if there was anything wrong with her heart. So this was a pretty big deal to make sure that there was no heart defect, which there wasn't, thankfully.
Yep.
But to go to that appointment alone was terrible. Because you sit there, and while you're waiting, there's nothing to distract you except your own thoughts. But James and I just kept saying, this is not what we anticipated. This is not how we had hoped my very first pregnancy would be.
Yeah.
But we're just trying to stay healthy. She's healthy. That's all that matters. We finally made the determination that it was safe to see my parents.
I was going to ask, because I know your mom. This had to be so horrible. I'm sure, but also you.
Yeah.
She must just be at her wit's end.
Yeah, it's been really hard. And we went 2 months at the beginning of quarantine without seeing them.
Yeah.
And she wants to be here, and she wants to be around and be helpful, and
yeah.
But then going forward, it's going to be weird, because then it's once we have this baby, how do we determine who can see her?
I know.
And weighing all, it's so uncertain that there's still a risk, and how much risk are you willing to take? We're trying to just see the positives as much as we can about, the fact that in a way it's been amazing, because I've not had to get on the subway and walk in the heat and be uncomfortable outside and I've, created this online ability to teach that will be wonderful
Right.
when, maybe I want to do an hour or two here, an hour or two there with a baby.
Yeah.
And it's not, so we're trying really hard because, we have our days. I definitely broke down crying yesterday, but we can't wallow in it because it is what it is, and we'll make the most of it, and it'll be okay.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
It has to be. Who are you quarantining with?
Obviously, James.
And the little one.
Yep.
Quarantine Couture. What are you wearing?
What am I wearing? Right now, I am wearing a maternity jumpsuit.
Nice.
Yeah.
But in general, every day, has it been like comfies all day, every day?
100%. I have a few lovely sundresses that just are flowy that I wear all the time, and or leggings and sweatpants.
You love a maxi dress.
I do.
You love a dress.
And a maxi dress works well when you're pregnant.
Yeah. I know. What are you eating?
Oh, so much ice cream.
Ice cream. Okay.
So much ice cream.
Cool. What kind of flavors are we talking about here?
Oh, so my favorites are the Talenti gelato. So I get the black raspberry chocolate chip.
It's amazing.
The sea salt caramel.
Love it.
And the caramel cookie crunch.
If there was one thing that you missed the most through this whole thing, like, what is it?
I think it's hosting people at our apartment.
I could see that with you.
Yeah, we really love to do that. And right before this, we had kind of repainted and gotten new furniture and redone our whole living room area. And we're really excited to have people over.
Yeah.
We like to host dinners and stuff. And
yeah,
that's the thing I miss the most.
So if you had some advice for your friends and your family and everyone here at the Mac, what would it be right now?
My advice is stop reading so much of the news.
Good one.
Try to find projects and something that brings you joy every day, and to take care of your own sanity and health in whatever way that means. Eat delicious food and don't worry so much.
Jillian, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me this week and chat. I am just in awe of you and your accomplishments. Congratulations on an incredible, incredible year. Okay, everyone, now's the time. Hit that subscribe button and don't forget to mention Jillian's name when you donate to the Bright Future Fund. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay hopeful.